How I screwed over a racist, horrible, bigoted business owner and likely resulted in him going out of business faster. This occurred in a southern state. I will not mention the state, cause well, you will see I was an account manager for a digital marketing company. We sold lead generation services to business owners to generate leads. One of our key selling features was if you turned on call tracking numbers, recorded phone calls, we would guarantee you X amount of leads based upon Y spend, and if we failed to meet that, you would be entitled to partial, or if we really failed, potentially full refund. Some things to know about advertising: CTN call tracking number. It is a unique number that's assigned to a certain point of advertising that consumers call. This number is only on that piece of advertising. It routes to the business line, and unless the consumer is very observant, they have no idea they are using a CTN. Call recording. If you turn on CTNS, we can record the calls and store the audio on our servers. The business has to consent to this. Also, when you call, you will hear a message: this call is recorded for quality assurance type message. Both those are required to be eligible for our service guarantee. Story time, Part 1. The lay of the land. The business in question was a small dad and son contracting company with a couple employees. They primarily focused on smaller jobs such as windows, drainage, finishing, etc. Unfortunately, this business owner was a royal PITA. He went back years, and his account was filled with nothing but complaints. Also, there was a strong suspicion that he was racist, because his last account manager was black. The business owner, who we will name Scott, refused to ever meet in person with the previous manager. Also, I was white. He had no issues finding the time to sit down with me and tell me how shit our service is. Well, it is coming up to do contract renewal, and he says we are not producing his leads, and he wants to put in a claim for failing to meet our service guarantee. I spoke to my manager about this, and he said he wants me to listen to his calls, write a detailed report, and present my findings to the manager. The manager is worried this may end up in court due to the dollar amounts involved. Nearly a whole working week of hours. I probably spent damn near 40 hours on this, and I wrote a detailed 24-page report outlining the results of our advertising. To say I shred this business owner business practices is an understatement. The report was a straight-up attack on his poor customer service skills, disorganization, inability to execute, and complete and total failure of anything resembling any sense of standard business practices that just make logical sense. I will share with you a few examples of the types of calls I listened to. Small calls where multiple phone calls are truly epic in their total incompetence. Customer 1I was a small-time landlord who had 3 different properties that had received a quote from Scott for work. The landlord had accepted Scott's quote and agreed to do business. In one voicemail message, offered to pay a deposit to start work. Throughout 4 voicemail messages, this poor landlord went from "Hey, I wanna pay you" to "Are you okay?" to "Why the fuck are not you returning my calls?" Yes, I said voicemails. Scott had gone out to this man's properties, quoted his pricing, and then straight up refused to do anything more. Why? I legit got no idea. I called the customer in question and said I was the quality assurance agency and was doing a survey on Scott's performance. The guy ended up paying Scott's competitor about 15 more to do the work and was utterly beside himself on why Scott ignored him. I was also confused. FYI, all my calls were recorded and put into the company records. Customer 2, this one in particular, really pissed me off. Again, the public housing office called Scott to get a quote on work that involved 25 different homes. Scott was kind enough to answer the phone this time, which, ironically, was one of the few fucking times he ever answered the phone. Initially, Scott sounded happy to get such a big profitable job. Then Scott learned 2 things. It was Section 8, housing. It was a neighborhood that was Black Hispanic. Immediately upon learning this, Scott informed the housing office that, unfortunately, he's super booked. Not true, and that this area is actually out of his service area. Not true. The housing office was confused and was like, so you're not interested in biting? And Scott said, no, I am not, and hung up. He did not even say goodbye. So I did a quality assurance call to the housing office, and the lady was completely confused why Scott was not even remotely interested in the job. Luckily for Scott, the lady did not connect that Scott was a racist cunt, cause discrimination against a protected class is a crime. Customer 3. It was an overseas phone number from Japan. A service member stayed up late to call Scott during his business hours. This person told Scott he was deployed overseas. Still, over the weekend, someone broke into his home back in the States where Scott operated out. He was trying to arrange for a new door. He mentioned this was an emergency as his wife was being forced to stay a hotel. Scott never returned his calls nor made any effort to contact him on the email he provided. No, called the wife, who was local. It was a super ease.